Okay, Tov. Good morning, everybody. Monday morning for a new week of learning Chassidus online and a deeper interpretation of the Torah. Now we are learning Shara Bitachon, the gate of trust in Hashem, in Hashem's hands, in good hands. We are starting Chovot HaLevavot today, Perek Aleph, chapter 1. And if you have a sefer, you can look inside. Otherwise, listen along. We're talking about the special mitzvah of bitachon, having trust in Hashem, which is far beyond the concept of faith. It's the idea of having emunah, pure, simple trust, bitachon in Hashem, that everything will be good. We are starting now Perek Aleph, chapter 1. The Chovot HaLevavot writes as follows. What is the mahut? What is the actual being? What is the understanding? What is bitachon? He says something fascinating. Menuchat hanefesh shel haboteach. That he who trusts in Hashem, that he is content, he feels calm, and he trusts in Hashem, in someone else. In other words, a person, you can look at it from two ways. You can either say that someone trusts in someone else because they were told to do so, or because they truly, deeply feel content with this decision. So the Chovot HaLevavot says that an important prerequisite to understanding and connecting with Hashem on a deep level, of trusting Him that whatever He does is for the best, an important foundation is that the person should feel content about themselves, about their decision. The second thing is that the heart of the person who's trusting should totally trust the individual who's being trusted. That he will do good and the proper decision for him as he trusts in him. As the one who is being trusted will understand, and how he can bring out his good into the practical realm. But the main thing he says is that a person should establish this trust in his heart. A person has to feel deeply that the trust is in him and that he is one with it. And if he'll be missing this foundation, one cannot find real trust within man. Which is when a person is totally trusting the individual, that he will fulfill what he was told, and he trusts him that he will do also the good that he did not oblige himself. Why would he do it? Because he's doing good. He's doing kindness for the person. Because if not so, if the person that's being trusting is not 100% sure that the person that he is entrusting will be totally dedicated to him, especially even when he did not give his word for it, or he did not promise, then he'll always think to himself, hey, maybe I'm not worthy of it. Maybe I'm not worthy of having this kindness done with me. So there will be missing in his trust. Because we've established already that a most important ingredient to the trust is there should be a very deep trust from the one who's trusting to the one who's being entrusted. Let's move on to chapter 2. What are the reasons that a person can trust another being, another creation of Hashem? It might be a person, it might be a scenario, a creation of Hashem. There are 7 reasons for that. Number 1 is the compassion and the love. When a person recognizes his friend, that he has true compassion upon him, then naturally he puts his trust and he relies on that person that he will do whatever he wants, whatever he'll request on him. So if you see the one that's being entrusted really has a great level of rachamim and compassion, that helps greatly for the person who is trusting to rely on the one who's being entrusted. That's number one. Number two, that he sees and he trusts that he's going to help him with all of his might. If a person knows that that the other person really loves him, and in addition to his love, he does not turn a blind eye to him, and he is not lazy to fulfill his will, and he even knows that his friend made a resolution and tries his best to help him. That is a great reason why someone would put their trust in someone else. Because if it's not clear to him that the person is going to invest all of his effort to help the person, so his trust will not be complete. Because he knows that sometimes because he knows that sometimes he makes himself oblivious to the person, and he might be lazy to fulfill what he wants. Only when we have these two advantages, that's when you can have true trust, which are his compassion upon the person, and that he's constantly checking over him. Then for sure he will not, without a doubt, he will be able to rely on the person. So we're trying to build up the subject of bitachon. What does it mean, and how do we get there? So far we have 2 points of how a person can truly, deeply trust another individual, even a creation of Hashem. Number one, when you see that the person's mercy and compassion and love is upon him, so that builds his trust. Okay, he loves me, so I want to trust him. I can entrust the person with all kinds of good things. And the second thing is that he knows that the person is not going to ignore him, and is not going to be lazy with helping him. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3 is that he has to know that his friend is strong, and you cannot win over him with anything that he wants to achieve. He is successful, and he knows how to achieve whatever he wants. Nothing will hold back from him to achieve what he wants to. Because if he is weak, then the bitachon in him won't be complete. Think of it as being leaning on a table. So let's say in halacha, in the Shulchan Aruch, by Shmona Esrei, you have to stand free. You cannot be leaning on something. You have to be standing. That if you're leaning on a table, and if you take away the table, the person's going to go flying, then that means that he's putting his entire weight, or his entire being, or his entire trust upon the table. That means that he's truly leaning on the table. So you're not allowed to lean like that. If a person is able to, if a person leans upon a table, then that means that he's totally putting his trust on that table. By the way, the halacha is that if a person leans on a wall or on a table, but if you take away the table, he's not going to fall. That means that he's only touching it, but he's not totally investing his his desire upon it, then you still should not lean like that for Shmona Esrei. What you could do is, it's better to stand free. If a person retroactively leaned lightly, so that is okay. That passes. But you should definitely not lean down on a stender or on a table, because during the Shmona Esrei, during the Amida, because you need to be freestanding, just standing, not leaning upon anything. So this is emphasizing the third point, which tells us how a person can even consider to have bitachon. You have to see that the individual that you're leaning upon is strong, has a personality, has a strong being. Because if the person is weak, then you can't trust him. Maybe he won't be able to live up to your expectations. Even if it's clear that your friend has compassion and is watching over you. Because very often, a person trusts another individual that when there will be a strong force or people going against him, that someone will protect him. But if this person is weak, then there's no way that anybody's going to protect him. So when you have the above mentioned three attributes of number one, compassion and love, number two, that he does not turn a blind eye from him, and finally number three, that he's a strong person, then you know that the bitachon, that the trust will be strong, and you can rely on the person. Now here's number four. The fourth thing that a person needs to feel confident in order to trust an individual. That his friend knows which things bring him true benefit to he who trusts in him. And he's not missing anything of what is good for the person, whether it's a hidden good or a revealed good, and from which things a person can receive a benefit. Because if a person trusts in him, if the person that trusts in him will not know this, he won't be able to rely on him. Because he might say that he doesn't really know what's good for me. Only when the person that is trusting will know that the person who he's entrusting, he wants the best for him, then he will much easier, in a much more convenient way, will he be willing to trust the person. Number five, that is that the person who you're trusting in is the only leader from the beginning. In other words, from when the person is born, while the person is growing up in his youth, and when he's older, until the end of his days. When you know that the one that you're entrusting has these special characteristics, so that demands, it's almost like for sure you want to trust in him. Because for all of the good that he's done in the past, and for the benefit that he's going to have in the future, all of this strengthens his bitachon in him. Just the fact itself that he knows that this person was involved, and especially very involved in his upbringing. So let's say you see a person that years ago was your teacher in the kindergarten or in school, or someone that even babysat you. Naturally, there is some kind of closeness and appreciation that you have to the individual. On a much larger level, if you know a person that had an impact on decisions that were made and really educated you, had a great impact on your life, then naturally you may feel much more secure to put your bitachon and trust in that person. Number 6 is that a person should be totally given over to the one who he's trusting in a way that no one will be able to hurt him. Think of it as being a child who is sitting in their parents' home or on their parents' lap. A child feels secure because you know that the person will never do bad to him. He will only do good. As I once heard an interesting analogy from Dr. Abraham Twersky of blessed memory, and he wrote that sometimes you have a child who the parent takes him to the doctor, and he's afraid of the doctor, whether because he's going to put in a needle or whatever, He's afraid of the doctor. So what does the child do? The child clings on to the parent, hugs the parent very strongly, and the parent is really doing the opposite of the will of the child. The parent is allowing the doctor to check the child to make sure the child is healthy. So listen to what's happening. The child is clinging on to the parent, because he's sort of moving away from the doctor, and the parent is helping the child for the benefit of the child to be checked properly. So the child really, logically, if it was an adult, should be saying, "Hey, parent, what are you doing? I'm coming to you for protection. So how can you be standing here and helping me almost like supporting the doctor who I'm running away from?" The answer is because in the subconscious of the child knows that the parent wants the best for the child. And so no matter what happens, the child feels safe in the atmosphere, in the area right around the parent. And so this is the idea of bitachon, that you know that the one that you're entrusting will not hurt you. For example, he says over here, a servant, a slave, who is in a jail or in a he's locked up in a place which is in the master's domain. And when the person that has the trust the person who they're entrusting, then you know that this is the right individual who you should be having bitachon in. And finally, for today, number 7, it's important that the one that you're entrusting should be very, very kind and generous and a bal chesed, both to this individual and to others who may not deserve it. And this generosity should be constant, and that his kindness should continue for a long time, and they should never finish. Someone that has all of the above characteristics, in addition to what we mentioned in the introduction, this is a complete person. And this is a person who is worthy to entrust in. And if someone that has all of these advantages, you have to put your trust in that individual. Because you know that he is the person who is going to do the best. And you can trust him with all your heart and soul and be given over to the individual and agree to whatever happens with him, because at the end of the day, he means your best. Obviously, what we're getting at is Hashem. Hashem is the true individual who is able to be totally entrusting. It's extremely, almost impossible, probably close to impossible, to have all of these above mentioned characteristics by a human being. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, especially from the beginning of when we were created, all the way through our lives, we have to remember that it's Hashem who has true rachmanut on us. He cares for us. He knows us. He accompanies us. And therefore, Hashem is the right one to be the one to have bitachon in him. Thank you very much for joining us. Bezrat Hashem, tomorrow morning, we'll be learning here again, Shara Bitachon at 9:15, and then there'll be Beit HaMidrash at 10 o'clock. And of course, tomorrow evening, we're going to have a special shiur in preparation for Chanukah, learning the mimer, the new mimer on the Hasidic discourse from the Rabbi, on the whole idea, on the deeper interpretation of the menorah, the Chanukiah, and Chanukah. Thank you very much for joining us.